In this video, I'm going to tell you all about Bach's chorales, why you need to know them, and how they can help you to become a better musician. The 389 chorale settings of Johann Sebastian Bach are superbly instructive pieces, providing students short pieces of the highest quality with which to learn voice leading, counterpoint, harmony, and sight singing. Throughout my training as a composer, I spent countless hours studying these chorales, and they helped to form my basic technique as a composer. In this 4-part series, I'll pull apart one chorale at a time, showing you how Bach put them together and what exactly they're all about. But first, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Scorefolio. Scorefolio is an online platform especially conceived for composers, allowing you to quickly and easily create score videos. It also features an adaptive media player with which you can feature scores, audio, video, and even catalog entries. Many composers divide their work among a handful of different hosting services, one for video, one for audio, and so on. Instead, you can use Scorefolio for everything and have all of your work in one place, along with your events listings so you can maintain your artist portfolio. I've been using it myself, and I really like what they're building. Try it yourself, and you might find that it's just what you're looking for. The chorales in this collection, which is the Bible for composers, are drawn from a number of different sources: Bach's passions, oratorios, cantatas, and a few of them are standalone settings. These are pieces of such transcendental quality that we're still studying them 300 years after they were composed. And every new generation of musicians must at some point come to terms with them. These pieces are foundational, ushering in a new modern style while simultaneously exemplifying the high polyphonic style of the medieval and Renaissance periods. Bach would start by taking a chorale melody, most of which were several centuries old by the time he was working on them, and set them in 4 parts: soprano, alto, tenor, and bass, or SATB, as it's commonly abbreviated. Within Bach's liturgical output, the chorales fill a key role, that of allowing active participation by the entire congregation. While trained singers would have performed the solo parts in Bach's cantatas, the chorales were an opportunity for everyone to join in. And because they were based on familiar melodies and were also eminently singable, anyone could participate. So that's the practical aspect, but from a more philosophical point of view, I believe these pieces exemplify an ideal, that of a seamless integration of the individual, each with their own distinct line to sing, within a broader, coherent context. Countless generations of composers now have consolidated their technique by working on these chorales. One common exercise consists of giving a student the top line of a chorale and asking them to write the other 3 parts. The student can then compare their work with the original by Bach. Some of the chorales are fairly straightforward, others are extremely complex. But one thing students, or really anybody approaching these pieces, must remember is that even though they're often used in undergraduate programs to teach something called keyboard harmony, which is a term I despise, by the way, these are not piano pieces. As such, you have to be sensitive to the use of vocal register, and especially to the importance of text setting when looking at these pieces. Unfortunately, most of the time, the chorales are quite badly taught, leaving students with nothing other than a set of totally abstract rules whose purpose they don't understand, and no understanding whatsoever of the expressive nature of these texts and of their relationship to the setting. So let's see if we can do this a little bit better. So today we're going to look at a particularly interesting setting. Christ ist Erstanden, Christ is risen. And of course, as the name suggests, this is an Easter chorale. And it's also a standalone piece, one that was not integrated into a cantata. Moreover, at 18 bars long, this piece is an epic by chorale standards, and it's extraordinarily intricate with chromatic harmony and imitative counterpoint. First, we need to read the text, here in an English translation of the original German. Christ is risen from all his torments. We should all be joyful at this. Christ wants to be our consolation. Lord, have mercy. If he were not risen, then the world would be lost. Since he is risen, we praise the Father of Jesus Christ. Lord, have mercy. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. We should all be joyful at this. Christ wants to be a consolation. Lord, have mercy. Okay, so now let's listen to the unaccompanied melody of this chorale. You'll notice that the range of the vocal line is comparatively limited. In fact, often the chorale melodies encompass less than an octave so that they can be easily managed by an untrained singer. And you might also have noticed that this piece has a strophic form, meaning that it consists of a single verse repeated 3 times. Rather than having repeat bar lines, however, you'll notice that the rhythmic stresses are different every single time. Moreover, the melody is not the same each time, but is varied, with some phrases longer and some shorter. Finally, as is typical for these chorale melodies, the top line is somewhat ambiguous in its harmonic implications. Because the melody is modal in character, some ingenuity is required to imagine it in a modern tonal setting. And of course, because of this very ambiguity, there are many, many, many different ways that you could harmonize one of these melodies. So now let's listen to the complete 4-part setting of Ist Erstanden by Bach. This is by far one of the most harmonically and contrapuntally complex chorales that Bach ever composed, and it contains a number of unusual sonorities. Look at this accented passing tone on beat 2 of bar 11, with the major ninth interval between the soprano and the bass. I'd also like to point out a device that Bach often uses in his chorale settings, using syncopation to create a sequence of suspensions before resolving them in a cadence. This example is taken from the second stanza. Now let's look at one of my favorite moments in this chorale, and actually in all of the Bach chorales, the stretto-like imitations in the final phrase, which allow for an unbelievably intense buildup of tension, which is then resolved at the end of the piece. Notice also that in this passage, Bach gives us chains of complex harmonic suspensions, making this even more distinctive from a harmonic point of view. Who else would have devised something so elaborate from such humble materials? Finally, there's one other distinctive feature in this piece that I'd particularly like to highlight. You'll have noticed that there's one little piece of text that's repeated at the end of every stanza, Kyrie eleis, or Lord have mercy. And every time these words are repeated, the melody is identical, a sequence of repeated Ds, almost like an incantation. This gives us a fantastic opportunity to look at Bach's peerless ingenuity, because with every setting of this same identical melodic fragment, he gives us 3 totally different harmonizations. And you'll also notice that each successive setting of this refrain is more complex than the previous one. So here's the first Kyrie eleis. And the second. And the third. So even though it's hardly possible to imagine a simpler melody, Bach gives us these extraordinarily intricate and harmonically gorgeous settings. So to round off this video, I'd like to suggest an exercise that you can try if you want to sharpen your sight singing skills using these chorales. So let me take 2 bars from the second stanza as an example. So as an exercise, try singing one of these voices without all the others. Just any line. It could be the soprano or the alto, doesn't matter. In this instance, I'm going to just take the tenor. You'll have to forgive me for my poor singing skills, but this will get the idea across. Kyrie eleis. Okay, I know. Not very great. So now we're going to take the other 3 voices and just play them alone without the tenor. And now I'm going to try to put them all together. And remember, if you do this exercise, you have to do it with the text too. So it's not so easy. Hopefully you can do that better than I can. But the point is, it's a difficult exercise, but it's one that will definitely enhance your musical skills if you can do it on a regular basis. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to make 3 more in this series, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss them. And as always, please also note that I do offer one-on-one Zoom lessons if you're interested in private composition or analysis tutoring. Thanks for watching.